Gross, you're kidding. Alright, listen, guys. There's something very important that needs to happen right now, and I have to be the one to do it. Dearly beloved, we've been gathered here today to shit on Ben Shapiro. But why? Why would we ever give a fuck about this useless sack of shit? Well, it's because some people actually listen to him. Hopefully, by the end of this video, it will be as much a mystery to you as it is to us. He speaks as if he had at least sat in on a couple of debate lectures, learned all of the most common deceptive fallacies, and replaced any sort of valid arguments he could have had with them. And to be sure that nobody calls him on them, he speaks to audiences of college kids too dumb to realize what he is doing is intentionally deceptive and encouraging willful ignorance. The only way I can think of that we could come together to redeem society as a whole is to basically destroy it. But we have to start small. Is it just me, or does he actually literally look like a rat? With his slumped over, slouched position? With his horribly fast talking that you can't even fucking understand what he says half the time. It's like he's so nervous every time he speaks. He has no fucking confidence. Does anybody else get that? Watch his content for 5 seconds and you'll know how void of charisma he is. How he is just a horrible entertainer. He has no skill. He has no real rhetoric expertise. All he knows how to do is run his mouth quickly and slouch over like he's a fucking rat. Exhibit A is his climate change rhetoric.
Okay, so let's say the Earth is warming. What kind of damage is that actually going to do?
Now, instead of trying to understand why you would minimize the disastrous effect of the planet warming at a constant rate indefinitely, I'm instead going to just laugh at you.
And this is a serious question, right? Let's say that the Earth is warming and we're causing it.
We're already saying it. You're just not fucking listening. Despite the fact that 97% of scientists agree on this topic. I mean, it's not up for debate. Climate change is fact. Denying it in an academic setting will get you laughed out of the room almost as fast as denying evolution. It's no use, guys. It's just no fucking use.
Does that mean that it's the day after tomorrow and massive floods in New York and Dennis Quaid running around with Jake Gyllenhaal trying to avoid the freeze?
Yeah, Ben, it's going to be exactly like the day after tomorrow. In fact, picture the day after tomorrow every day, except it continually gets worse with no way to stop it. That's basically what we're dealing with here and what you're telling us to ignore. Good job. Oh, but if we can't stop it, then why do anything about it, right? Well, it's to slow the rate that it happens, you fucking moron, so that we find a better solution to the problem. I mean, you know what'll doom humanity quicker than anything else? Having to deal with all these struggles, all these problems that global warming causes. In addition to actually trying to get 2 trillion tons, 2 trillion tons of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and put it in the fucking ground where it came from? Are you mental? Spit it out, Junior. Oh, with Satan's advocate. I can't remember a single time when you ever stuttered in your videos. And they're pre-recorded, not even a live performance. You're a fucking moron.
A fellow whose name escapes me right now, who just won the Nobel Prize in Economics, who legitimately made his entire career out of studying the economics of climate change.
William Nordhaus, professor at Yale University, won the Nobel... Fuck you. William Nordhaus, professor at Yale University, won the Nobel Prize in 2018 for his research on the
economics of climate change.
Sort of strange of you to name drop someone without even dropping his name. It's almost like you're hoping your audience couldn't be fucked to do a 5-second Google search and find out this man, whose credibility you hope would rub off on you, completely disagrees with you in every way.
We're now waiting for governments to take actions. I think it's clear what we need to do. We need to raise the price of carbon through a carbon tax or cap and trade system. So our governments need to get with it. They need to really get on board and to take the steps.
When does he think that intervention economically is called for. He says that until he believes that over the next century there's 3.5 degrees centigrade of climate change, that intervention actually would be counterproductive. It would cost more to intervene than it would to actually allow the damage to take place and just cope with it.
Wow, man. I didn't know you were retarded. Perhaps if you actually watched any of Nordhaus's lectures, you would know that taxing carbon emissions is optimal for economic growth, according to him.
The green line, the green bars show you, and don't worry too much about the units here on the left. They're present values, but they're just the bars are what I want to emphasize on. So you can see the damages from doing nothing to the optimal to the temperature limiting, and the damages obviously as you limit temperature increase, the damages are going to go down from left to right. And these are increasingly stringent policies from left to right, increasingly ambitious policies. And then so the damages go down, but then what are the costs? Well, they're not much cost if you don't do anything, but as you become increasingly ambitious, the costs rise. So you want to. But economics says, well, how are you going to balance these? And if you're and you can see that the extremes, you have a lot of damages and no cost at one extreme and a lot of costs and very low damages at the other, and somehow in between you can balance the two. And what you want to think of in economics or in more generally is what's the best balance between these two? Is it the optimal? Is it a 2 degree? Is it an averaging period? What different averaging period? So you want to find some balance between the costs and the costs and the damages.
All right, that's enough of this guy's video already. For fuck's sake, let's get to the point.
So economics points to one inconvenient truth about climate change policy, and that is to be effective, the policies have to raise the price of carbon or CO2. And by doing that, correct the externality of the marketplace.
The question in his mind is not whether we should tax carbon. It's how much we should tax carbon, because we really need to right now. How do you watch his lectures and not get that, right? You fucking can't. You're just trying to mislead your audience because you think they're stupid. And I do too. They're fucking stupid. You know exactly who you're talking to. I would suggest you quit trying to damper the progress of people who know so much more about this shit than you. Can any of you think of a better example of intentional deception than this? Like, this is pretty blatant, right? Am I fucking crazy?
I don't see any reason why I think that I would know better than he does.
I don't see any reason why I think that I would know better than he does. I don't see any reason why I think that I would know better than he does.
All right, Ben, this is really tearing me apart, and I really need you to say something for me. Here, say it with me. I'll guide you through this, all right? Because I know you're really fucking slow. I am not an authority on this topic. I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, say it. I want to hear it. Come on. My advice is horrible. My prescriptions about how people should act in the world are not gospel. I am not God.
The number one reducer in emissions over the past year was actually the United States.
Well, that's really not so impressive, considering the fact that the United States is still by far one of the worst emitters of CO2 on the face of the fucking planet.
I mean, the United States pulls out of the Paris Accords. The Paris Accords, by the way, did nothing. They were completely useless. It was basically sign a piece of paper saying you don't like climate change. Okay, fine, I signed it, yay.
Now, if the Paris Accords did nothing, then why would Trump even bother to withdraw the US from them? The fact of the matter is that they did do something, albeit far less than what William Nordhaus thinks should be done. And like you said,
I don't see any reason why I think that I would know better than he does. What does solve climate change is technological progress.
What does solve climate change is technological progress.
Technology isn't fucking magic, you moron. Do you have any clue how difficult it would be to find a way to remove 2 trillion tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and make it inert such that it no longer reacts as part of the carbon cycle? Do you know how much energy it takes to do something like that? Maybe if you did, you would understand how fucking stupid what you're saying is. Listen, you don't get to decide not to contribute to solving an obvious problem by assuming that someone's going to invent a solution before we all starve to death. No, Advocate, you're talking too much science to these people. That's not what they're here for. They want blood. Exhibit B is his cringy, elitist diatribes. The singing bells of inchoate stupidity.
The song Imagine is the worst song ever written. It is a horrible, horrible, evil song. And it's not just evil because it's pretentious and ridiculous and the piano chords and all of that. It's an evil song because the actual ethos that is promulgated by Imagine is completely idiotic. Imagine there's no countries. It's easy if you try, right? Okay, so let's just be a little frank about this. Right now, it's pretty obvious there are countries because every single country on planet Earth is closing its borders to all of the other countries.
I mean, really, I don't need to say all that much for this shit.
And they talk about imagine, the lyrics include imagine there's no heaven, imagine there's no hell, right? All we care about is what happens here on Earth, which of course would lead pretty quickly to a moral breakdown of society.
Ah, I know what you mean, Ben. I live in a world where people don't believe in a heaven or a hell, and they maim, kill, and pillage everything. It's fucking awesome.
The song is just tremendously horrible. It's a horrible song with a horrible, immoral communist message. I've talked about it on the show extensively before. This is the single worst song in human history. I mean, this sucker makes Justin Bieber look like Beethoven.
Like seriously, it just makes fun of itself.
As a sympathetic human being, I just want to make sure these ladies get the care they need. My wife's medical advice is that they go to a gynecologist ASAP, and that they do whatever checks are necessary for bacterial vaginosis, yeast infection, or trichomonas.
Whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. Hold up. I said certified freak 7 days a week. Wet ass P-word. Make that pull-out game weak.
Like, it's just horse shit. It's just horse shit all across the board.
P-word. P-word is female genitalia. It continues along these lines.
I said certified freak, 7 days a week. Wet ass P-word, make that pull-out game weak. Hell yeah, brother.
So the musical case against rap is that, in my view, and the view of my music theorist father who went to music school, there are three elements to music. There is harmony, there is melody, and there is rhythm. Okay. And rap only fulfills one of these.
Okay, so I can get away with saying any stupid thing I want to by prefacing it with, in my view, oh, it's just my opinion. It doesn't have to be correct or verifiable at all. The views of you or your father aren't relevant to anyone but you, especially when you don't have any actual research to back shit up. Oh, but instead you want to play a little semantic game. Oh, it's not actually real music. As if it matters to anyone whether it's technically music or not. People still listen to it. People still enjoy it. Let them enjoy it. I'm going to take the liberty to assume that you use rap as a colloquium referring to hip-hop music and not just the practice of rapping. But perhaps you should have gone to music school yourself, because both hip-hop and rapping contain all three of these elements, and even if they didn't, it doesn't stop them from being music. These are merely three elements that music could express. Of course, this might depend on your definition of music, but what can't be argued is that every song you hear on the radio today, including all of the ones you make fun of, they contain all three of these elements. I'm sorry, you're fucking stupid.
That there's not a lot of melody and there's not a lot of harmony. And thus, it is basically effectively spoken rhythm. And so it's not actually a form of music, it's a form of rhythmic speaking.
Oh, all right, Ben. So you want to shift the goalpost and try to make me prove to you that rap has a lot of melody and a lot of harmony. No. How about you go dunk your head in the toilet and flush it till you pass out, you fallacious pile of shit? Rhythmic speaking. It's sort of strange. I think I've heard of that before in the context of art. Oh, what is it called again? Poetry. Oh, but you can't call it poetry because that's too dignified, right?
To my criticism of rock along the same lines as my criticism of rap, which was that rock was an actual degradation of skill for music from jazz, which was actually a degradation of skill from classical. That the amount of talent and work, mostly work, that you have to put into mastering a classical instrument is a lot higher than the amount of talent that you and work you'd have to put into playing three chords in a rock song.
Stop raising your eyebrows after every fucking word. That's my thing. I'm seriously amazed that you think it would bear any weight to compare being a violin virtuoso with learning 3 guitar chords. I mean, you know that there are guitar virtuosos in the modern day, right? Because of our ability to share our techniques with other musicians, the amount of skill that you can develop in a lifetime has greatly expanded for guitarists. People have been coming up with all kinds of new techniques and ways of playing these instruments for fucking years because of it. Claiming that rock is a degradation of jazz is like claiming the platypus is a degradation of the duck. makes no fucking sense because these are vastly different genres written by vastly different methods for vastly different intended audiences and by vastly different fucking people. Nothing about writing a song of a particular genre limits the artist in any way. And if you want to make something impossibly complicated and hard to understand, you can do it. In jazz, that was a very common practice. In classical, maybe it was a little bit hit or miss, but generally yes. And rock might not be the best example of this, but there's still exceptions like the Beatles. But if you're talking about music nowadays, progressive rock and metal have been growing in popularity recently, so I really don't know why you would have the gall to say something so stupid, but you really should be embarrassed. Exhibit C is probably the most important one. It's his facade of confidence.
All those years invested as this sports legend, to come out transgender is horribly difficult. It is the most difficult thing you can do. I've been overseas, I've flown helicopter missions, surveillance missions, I've been shot, stabbed. Being brave is being yourself, and being transgender is about the bravest thing you can do. Did she deserve the award? Yes.
Why are we mainstreaming delusion?
It's not delusion.
Why would you call it delusion?
Because Bruce Caitlyn Jenner, I'll call him Caitlyn Jenner.
No,
because
it's
that's
her. You're not being polite to the pronouns.
Because
disrespect.
Okay, forget about the disrespect. Facts don't care about your feelings.
This idea of facts over feelings. It's great, Ben.
You don't know what you're talking about. You're not educated on
Would you
genetics.
like to discuss the genetics? Or
Well, no,
what are
no.
your genetics?
So I'd stay away from the genetics and back to the brain scans.
You cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
You know, you remind me a lot of Chris Hitchens.
If someone tells me that I've hurt their feelings, I say, well, I'm still waiting to hear what your point is.
Except I think he could actually arouse your wife. And he's fucking dead.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
Oh, what, you just want to provoke a reaction out of this person? Is this the level of stupid tactics you're about to resort to instead of actual political discourse? This is the type of shit that only somebody without the facts on their side would fucking do. You're making everything you stand for look bad. How courageous are you for standing up to a trans woman who could absolutely demolish you if she wanted to?
You know, I'm not inclined to continue an interview with a person as badly motivated as you as an interviewer, so I think we're done here. I appreciate your time.
All right, well,
much.
thank you for your time and for showing that anger is not part of American political discourse. Now, Mr. Shapiro, we'll say goodbye.
You talk fast and all, and you're sure to bring up a lot of points all at once to try to overwhelm somebody trying to fact check you. I mean, it takes me like 10 minutes to get through a 3-minute clip of your rambling diuretic bullshit. The only reason anybody takes you seriously is because they don't bother to do their own fucking research. It's like you're a monument to willful ignorance. And that's what disappoints me most of all, Ben. You have a platform that you could use to help the world. But instead you choose to sell out your facts for the sake of the fucking feelings of your audience. At the end of the day, you're the one who has to cope with the fact that you hoard yourself for money and recognition as being one of the most deceptive people to ever exist. You've disgraced your own name, you've disgraced the name of conservatism in general, and you're one of the many reasons why humanity is totally fucked. Congratulations. Say, I think this new guy is onto something.
I like to gatekeep what's considered art. I act as if a man is the sum of his parts. Yet I believe in an afterlife. What? And I can't get her wet. I never fuck my wife. I am the ultimate authority. 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 Yeah, I keep my shit professional. Press my suit and tie. I worship facts and climate change I deny. I think I'm Hitchens, although I hate to admit this. wouldn't have shined his shoes with my intestines.